Good day, my dear student. Today we're going to talk about the continuation of our discussion last meeting. So this is the last part of the topic or the lesson, the elements and the principles of art. So last time we are done discussing the different elements. We have the elements of the combined arts, elements of theater, elements of dance, elements of music, elements of cinema, and that's it. Okay? So those are the lesson or subtopics that we are done discussing last meeting. Now, we're going to move on to this new, or it is just a continuation actually, of our discussion in the same topic under the topic elements and principles of art. Okay, let's proceed. Lesson 6, principle of art. So, siguro medyo maikli lang ang ating discussion. Hopefully, hopefully, maikli lang ating discussion. Anyway, so yan, hindi na lingid sa inyo. Nasa ibang lugar na nga ako. Nasa Lipa, Batangas. So, doon sa ating mga nagdaang klase, ay yun nga, nasa Batangas City pa ako. So, sa ngayon, ay medyo nag-adjust tayo ng konti, no? So, hindi ko alam kung meron bang maaaring pagbabago sa aking way ng pagla-lecture o wala. Or I think wala naman, ano? So, ganun pa rin yung approach ko, ganun pa rin yung way of lecturing ko. Siguro konting adjust lang ng konti, ano? Since kakalipat laang, ano? So, lalo na, no? Kapag ganito na ibang lugar. Okay, sige. Let's proceed na sa lesson 6, principles of art. So like what I said, this is just a continuation of our discussion, or this is the last part of the lesson or the topic, elements and principles of arts. Okay, now let's proceed. Three key elements of the visual arts. Generally, the visual arts are made up of three key elements that are independent of each of their specific elements. In the appreciation of the visual art, these three elements present themselves as. But before we get into these three key elements of the visual art, let's go back, or let's just recall the elements of the artwork. So we have form, shape, line, colors, space, and textures. Now, what I'm talking about is parang general, ano? General elements of the artwork siya. Ngayon naman, elements of the visual art. So, mas specific siya, no? Na art form, visual arts. Ngayon, yun ang ating titingnan ngayon. Una muna, ano? Elements of the visual arts. We have form. O yan, naroon pa rin pala yung form, ano? It refers to how specific elements in the artwork are organized to produce a unified whole. Form is further classified into. So, ano ba yung mga part ng form na sinasabi dito? So, sige, basahin muna natin, ano? Una, primary features. So, kapag ka sinabi natin primary features, this is how the artwork appears to the viewers. Its physical attributes in terms of mediums, color, textures, and size. So, by the way, itong form na sinasabi natin dito, it is how the elements and the mediums or materials are put together para makabuo ng composition. Yun ang sinasabi natin dito sa form. Now, under ng form, yun na nga, no? Primary features. So, dito kasi, ang focus ay yung kung ano yung pinaggagamitan or yung mga material, ano? So, this is how the work, or this is how the artwork appears to the viewers. Okay? So, its physical attributes in terms of medium, color, texture, and size. So, parang ang dating, physical appearance, di ba? Ng artwork. Okay? Yung outward appearance ng artwork. So, na makikita mo dun yung medium, yung color, texture, and size. Okay? Yung mga ganon. Okay? So, ayan. So, parang dating sa primary outward appearance ng artwork. Now, we have secondary features. So, nakalagay dito sa secondary features, we have this is how the primary features of the artwork relates to one another. Particularly, this refers to balance, proportion, unity, and harmony that are used to create the whole composition. So, parang ang idea dito sa secondary features, di ba? Sa una, sa primary features, nakikita mo lang yung mga medium na ginamit, yung physical appearance ng isang artwork, ano? So, ngayon naman, ito naman sa secondary features, makikita mo naman yung pagkakagawa, ano? So, hindi lang basta mo madidistinguish yung mga different medium na ginamit, yan ay papatak sa primary, whereas dito sa secondary features, ito na, connected na, ano? So, kaya nakalagay dito, ano? This is how the primary features of the artwork relate to one another. Connected na yung ginamit na medium, for example, kung ano man, dun sa ibang medium na ginamit, na makakabuo ng isang, yun nga, whole composition na sinasabi dito, ano? Particularly, this refers to balance, proportion, unity, and harmony. Kumbaga, nagkaroon ng, kumbaga, nung una, yung primary features, mga ingredients lang ang nakikita mo. Whereas dito sa secondary features, yun na. Yun na yung mga interconnected na mga materials, kaya ito na yung finished product. Okay? Pagkakonekta ng mga materials na ginamit. Yung mga kung ano-anong mga techniques na rin, ano kasama na rin dyan. Yung mga kulay. Okay? So, yan sa secondary features. Now, next. Okay. So, dun sa secondary features, ano, using the medium to create a form, ano? Yan ang sinasabi. Now, we are going to the next. We have content. Under pa rin siya ng elements of the visual art. Actually, siya nga yung isa rin, ano? Yung una form, ngayon naman ay content. Ngayon, nakalagay dito, refers to the message the artist want to convey through his art. So, kumbaga, ito yung gusto mo na sabihin na natin na mensahe. Kung tatagalogin natin, ano? Yung mensahe gusto mong ipaarating sa iyong viewers. Ikaw bilang isang artist. Now, it is also the meaning that is communicated by the artist or the artwork. Okay? So, in a way na dahil naggawa ka ng artwork, it is a means of communication sa iyong viewers. Now, meron tayong levels of contents. Number 1, we have factual. Is the literal interpretation of the work, its image, attributes, action, and poses. So dito sa sinasabi nating factual content ay literal interpretation of the work, its image, attribute, action, and poses. So ito yung obvious na makikita mo, ano, nakahulugan sa isang artwork. So kung babalikan natin yung ating lesson, masasabi natin na connected ito sa representational object. In which, di ba, kapag babalikan natin, kapag sinabi natin representational object, ito ay identifiable or recognizable. Meaning, malalaman mo talaga yung meaning nito, malalaman mo talaga yung kahulugan ng artwork na ito, okay? Literal nga eh. Yun ang sinasabi natin na factual content or factual level under ng content. Okay? So next we have conventional. So conventional takes into consideration the basic genres or genres and the figurative meanings usually indicated by familiar signs and symbol and the quality of work. Sinasabi dito sa conventional level ay parang may nakatalagang interpretation dito. So it pertains to the knowledge or it pertains pala, no? It pertains to the acknowledged interpretation of the artwork using motifs, signs, symbol, and other ciphers as basis of its meaning. Ulitin natin, It pertains to the acknowledged interpretation of the artwork using motifs, signs, symbol, and other cipher as basis of its meaning. So dito sa conventional level na sinasabi natin, ang idea niyan ay yung symbol, di ba? Kumbaga, may natatagong sign or symbol itong artwork na ito. So it takes into consideration the basic genres and the figurative meaning usually indicated by familiar sign and symbol and the quality of work. Now, kumbaga sa kanina, ang factual and representational object, ngayon naman, pwede natin may connecta ang conventional level sa sinasabi nating non-representational object in which parang wala siyang obvious na meaning na makikita mo. Kasi nga, deep inside, kumbaga kung lilimiin mo, obserbahan mo, i-analyze mo, okay, yung isang artwork, yung mga symbol, hindi mo agad makikita or mapapalabas yung kahulugan noon. So, yun ang sinasabi natin na conventional level. Alright? So, ayan, ang sinasabi natin, connected siya sa non-representational object. Now, example na rin, si Mona Lisa. Si Mona Lisa na pininta ni Leonardo Da Vinci, okay, noong 1400s, ay merong natatagong meaning or kahulugan. Gaya nga nasabi ko, makikita nyo sa eyebrow ni Mona Lisa, walang eyebrow, okay? Tapos yung kamay daw, parang, ewan ko, nakatabing or something. Tapos yung pag-smile at kung ano na pa, maging yung background. There is something hidden meaning, okay, dun sa artwork na yon. So, papasok siya dun sa conventional level under ng content or non-representational object. Okay? Pero minsan, sinasabi ng iba, recognizable daw. Pero yung pala, may natatagong meaning pala yung artwork na yon. Okay? So, conventional level tayo. So, tapos na tayo dyan. Now, next, we have subjective level. Subjective level takes into consideration the effect of form and content on the viewers of the art. So, this meaning stems from the viewers or audience circumstances that come into play when engaging with the art. Okay? Dito sa sinasabi nating tawag dito, subjective level. Alright? Now, ang tawag dito, when looking at a particular painting, for example, so, yung perception at kahulugan ay laging informed, okay, and even colored by a manifold of context. So, what we know, what we learned, what we experienced, and the values we stand for. It is therefore expected that the meaning may not be singular, rather, a painting may communicate multiple meanings to its viewers. Okay? So, yun ang sinasabi natin dito. So, going back dun sa conventional, di ba? The convention are established through time, strengthened by the recurrent use and wide acceptance by its viewer or audience and scholar who study them. Kumbaga ay dito sa convention ay may nakatalagang meaning or interpretation na kailangang pag-aaralan pa ito ng mga scholars, ng mga critics, okay, art critics, bago pa mapalabas yung meaning nito. Yun yung conventional. Now, dito sa subjective, kagaya ng sabi ko, ulitin ko lang when looking at a particular painting, for example, perception and meaning are always informed and even colored by a manifold context. What we know, what we learn, what we experience, and the value we stand for, it is therefore expected that the meaning may not be singular, rather a painting may communicate multiple meaning to its many viewers. So, pinapakita dito sa subjective levels, maaari nating makita ang isang artwork base sa kung paano natin ito tingnan. Meaning to say, may kanya-kanya tayong interpretasyon kung paano natin ito madedefine, kung paano natin masasabing na-feel natin yung emotion na nag-reflect or naka-influensya sa atin using this artwork. So, dyan papatak yung tinatawag natin na subjective level. Now, next we have context under pa rin ang key elements of the visual arts. Context refers to the various circumstances that influence how a work of art was produced and interpreted. So, the two types of context are, basahin natin. First, we have primary context, pertains to the characteristic of the artist, his personality, beliefs, interests, and values. Ang pinapakita dito sa primary context ay ito ay nakabase sa artist, yung kanyang characteristic. Now, dito sa secondary context, pertains to the setting. Okay, the historical period, time in which the work was produced, included are the function served by the artwork, its religious and philosophical conviction, socio-political and economical undertones, climate, and geography. Now, dito pinapakita sa secondary context yung mga nagdaang panahon, setting rin. For example, yung mga period, Renaissance period, medieval period, di ba? Yun ang agad ang pumapasok sa aking isipan kapag nakita ko itong secondary context because it talks about historical period. So, nakabase rin kasi yan sa kung ano yung time na kumbaga kaganapan, So, kumbaga, kung babalikan natin yung mga panahong una, ay wala pang gaanong materials, wala pang gaanong mediums na ginagamit, wala pang gaanong masyadong style. Okay? Kung ikukumpara natin sa contemporary period na sinasabi. So, dyan papasok yung secondary context pertains to the setting. Kasama na dyan yung lugar at maging yung date or kung kailan ito ginawa. Now, to sum up, para mas maging malinaw sa inyo, ang sinasabi natin dito sa tatlo, dito sa key elements of the visual arts. Well, in simpler terms, the form, okay, yung ating una is seen as the how. Okay? Okay? And then the content is the why. And the context for me is the where. So, kumbaga, sa form ay how. Paano ito nagawa? Paano ito na-form? Okay? Whereas, ang content ay why. So, bakit ganito yung artwork? So, ano ba talaga ang pinapalabas na mensahe dito? Okay? So, bakit ganito ang pagkaka-design? Okay? Why? So, inaalam mo why, yung content. So, dyan papasok yung why sa content. Okay? Whereas itong context ay where. Saan ba ang pinagkunang inspirasyon kung bakit nakagawa ang isang artist ng ganitong artwork. And that is why masasabi natin na ang context ay where. At saang settings na rin, ano, o saang lugar. Ayan. So, dyan lalabas yung tatlo para mas malinaw sa inyo. May illustration tayo. Now, next. So, I hope na-clear na sa inyo yan, ha? Sige, next na tayo kagad. Are. So, kumbaga, lumabas na. Wala nang mga isa-isa pa. So, principle of design. So, let's move on to another subtopics. Tapos na tayo kagad dun sa principle of arts. Ngayon naman, principle of design. Basahin natin ngayon. The principle of design describe the ways in which an artist has used or can use the elements of art to create beautiful composition. Okay, yun ang tinatawag natin na principle of design. Una, we have balance. Balance is the distribution of the visual ways of object, color, texture, and space. The use of these elements should be balanced to make the viewer see and feel design as stable. These types of balance. We have symmetrical balance. Result when the elements used on one side of the design are similar to those on the other side. Ito yun, ano, pinapakita natin. Representation or illustration ng symmetrical balance. As in talagang balance siya, as in talagang equal size siya, yun ang pinapakita sa symmetrical balance. Yung isang side ay kaparehas ng isang side, other side. Now, we go to the next. We have asymmetrical balance is when the sides of the composition are different but still look balanced. So, ganari kasi yan, ano? Ang idea, pwede siyang maliit ngayong kabila, tapos ito yung malaki. Pero, balance pa rin dapat siya. Pero hindi ko alam kung napakita ba dito sa representation na ito, no? Meron kasi dyang iba, ano, na parang ang dating ay itong malaki nasa pinakamalapit na timbangan, ano? Dito, nasa malapit. Whereas, itong maliit ay nasa dulo. Nasa dulo, ano? Parang ganon. So, para mabalance siya yung bigat. Pero, kung titingnan natin, ano, physically, iba yung kanilang size. Kung magkalapit talaga sila, no? Nakatulad ng symmetrical balance. Ito lang ay iba lang yung position. Iba ang position, pero balance pa rin siya kung ibabalansa natin. Now, next, we have radial or radial balance. Is achieved when the elements are arranged around a central point. Elements may exhibit similarities as they spread around the central point. Ito parang dating ay nagmula sa central point, ano? Na masasabi nating balance. Ibig sabihin, may mga object around the central regions na masasabi nating radial symmetry. Example na rin, yung pizza pie. Diba? Kung i-imagine nyo, na yung pizza pie na pagkakahati, radial balance siya. No? Kasi nga, makikita mo yung intersection na rin or yung points pala, no? Yung points, central point. Okay, yung pagkakahati na dapat balance siya. Alright, now next, let's move to the emphasis. Is the part of the design that catches the viewer's attention. The artist will usually make one area stand out by contrasting it with other areas. Pinapakita dito sa emphasis yung parang uniqueness ng isang object kumpara dun sa iba. Pero balance pa rin siya in a way that the same object, pero talagang makikita mo yung pagkakaiba. The same as you as a person. Kayo bilang tao, so we have our own uniqueness and differences. So parang gano'n, no? So biglang na-relate ulit sa totoong buhay. So emphasis, ano? So yan. Anyway, so makikita mo yung given dominance by the artist. Meaning, ito yung talagang binibigyan ng emphasis ng isang artist or nagdo-drawing or nagpipinta. So kapansin-pansin siya, no, kung makikita natin. Part of the artwork or the work is stand out. Okay? So yun ang pinaka-keyword niyan. Now we have movement. Is the path the viewer's eye takes when looking through the work of art. Such movement can be implied along lines, edges, shape, and colors with the work of art. Example niyan, yung parang ang idea, isang stable na sabihin na natin object or isang sabihin na natin painting na stable lang, ano? Or stationary. O yun, masasabi natin para accurate yung ating sinasabi. Stationary object. Now, makikita mo parang may movement. Pero sa katunayan, parang yun ay sapagkat optical illusion. Meaning to say, napandaya ng mata, kumbaga, no? So, yan. Hindi siya tunay gumagalaw, pero that is because optical illusion siya, parang gumagalaw siya. Okay? So, under siya ng movement. So, di ba, ating napag-aralan na yung mga implied movement, at saka yung isang movement, no? So, yan. Anyway, next we have pattern. Pattern is the repetition of object, shape, lines, or symbols all over the space or picture plane. Ibig sabihin, ino-occupy pa ng pattern yung lahat ng space na pare-parehas yung object. As in talaga, no? Yun ang tinatawag natin na pattern. Ino-occupy niya lahat. Okay? All over the space. Wala dapat puwang, ano? Hindi katulad nito, meron puwang. So, yun ang sinasabi natin kapag pattern. Meron kasi dito nga term na parang malilito kayo na parang parehas din naman, no? Next, we have proportion is the feeling of unity created when all parts relate with each other. So, wala tayong example dito, pero mamaya bigyan natin ng example itong lahat na ito, no? Proportion. So, para kasi ang dating ng proportion, pare-parehas siyang, for example, isang manika ba yun? Yung dal na tinatawag, na may iba't ibang shape. Pero the same appearance, the same dal, ano? Iba't iba lang yung appearance. So parang ganun ang idea ha, ng proportion. Alright? So para at least napaliwanag natin. Now, repetition works with patterns to make the work seem active. The repetition of elements of design creates unity within the artwork. Ibig sabihin, kung makikita natin dito, repetition, the same object siya, patterns to make work seem active. Pagkakaiba nga lang niya dito sa pattern, ito ay pwede nating makita na may space, mga ganyan. Whereas dito sa pattern talagang dapat walang space. Napare-paras din naman ang object. So parang ganun ang idea, no? Now, rhythm is created when one or more elements of design are used repeatedly to produce a feeling of organized, continuous, sometimes flowing movement. To keep rhythm exciting and active, variety is important. Ibig sabihin dito sa rhythm, parang ang idea, parang medyo kaparehas siya ng proportion, ano? Okay. So, nag-iiba ng size, pero the same ng image, ano? So, pero makikita mo dito yung rhythm. Sige, mamaya, mas lalo natin bigyan linaw ito. Minsan kasi talagang medyo nakakalito siya, no? Next, we have variety muna. Is the use of several elements of design that add interest in order to hold the viewer's attention and guide the viewer's eye through and around the work of art. So ngayon, ang example nito yung abstract painting in which iba't iba, no? Iba't iba yung object na nasa loob. So parang ganoon, kaya nga variety. Okay, may line, may circle, okay, yung mga ganyan. Pero balance pa rin siya in a way, ewan ko, equal amount yata, di ba? So kaya nga sinabi balance. Now, next we have unity. Dito sa unity is the feeling of harmony between and among the parts of the work of art which create a feeling of completeness in the composition. Sige, dako tayo dito sa pinaka-summary ng principle of design. Ito yung sinasabi natin. How to use the tools to make art. So, yung pattern, yung kanina, yung una, di ba? So, ang dating ay magkakaibang place, di ba? Yun ang sabi ko. Sige, basahin nyo na lang, ha? So, pattern, then contrast, emphasis, balance. Okay, yung balance. Kahit na sabihin na natin na asymmetrical balance in a way na hindi sakto ang pagka-balance o yung appearance, pero balance siya in a way na pares ng weight. Okay, so something like that. Then proportion. Okay. So, yung proportion na sinasabi ko kanina, magkaibang size, di ba? Ayan. So, harmony. So, yan. Rhythm, movement. So, basahin nyo na lang yung meaning, ano? Kung babasahin ko pa yan, dagdag oras pa. Okay? So, i-pause nyo muna, then basahin yung meaning ulit. Alright. Now, sige, okay na? So, next na tayo. I think, next na tayo. Are, something interesting ito. The rule of thirds and the seven, the Vincian principle. Dito muna tayo sa the rule of thirds. Sige, basahin muna natin, ano? Ito kasing the rule of thirds is used by visual artists such as painter, digital artist, and photographer. So, ginagamit nila itong rule of thirds na tinatawag para makapag-likha ng isang composition na magmi-meet sa requirement para masabi nating good design, ano? May turing nating good design. Ngayon, sa kasalukuyan, ang mga artists, ay hindi ginagamit yung technique na ito or yung rule na ito. Para sa kanila, they opt for free-flowing composition. Meaning, parang kung ano na lang, wala silang sinusundan ng mga pamantayan, mga measurement o kung ano man. Kaya nga, free-flowing composition, that is more of their individual expression, okay, rather than of work limited or bounded by basic rules. Okay, dahil gusto nyo nga lang nila express ang kanilang sarili, kaya wala na silang sinusundan ng mga line na ganyan, mga rules na ganyan. So, ang point ng discussion natin na ito ay para ma-encourage ang mga artists or kayo na rin siyempre bilang nag-aaral ng art appreciation na maging aware sa basic rules na sinasabi, itong the rule of thirds, bago mag-start ng or venturing to unorthodox techniques, meaning unusual techniques in expressing their art. Okay? So, sige, basahin natin. The surface with two equally spaced vertical lines and two equally spaced horizontal lines. So these lines divide the picture plane into 9 equal parts with 4 intersecting points. Ito yon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, ayan. Ngayon, meron siyang line. Okay? 4 intersecting points. We have 1, yung nag-meet, di ba? Kapag sinabi natin intersecting points, when the two lines meets, So, ganon. So, ito yung intersection, ito, at ito. Based on study, placing an object in one of the intersecting points result in placing composition. Base daw sa pag-aaral, kapag tinapat po sa intersecting point, okay, yung object ay parang ang dating mas kumbaga mapiplis ka, parang ganon na talagang tingnan yung artwork na yun. So parang ganon ang idea. So parang maganda sa iyong paningin kasi pantay siya. So yan. Balance is achieved by placing another object at the point opposite the first one. Ibig sabihin, itong object ng aso, for example, dito, ay object ng trees or land dito sa kabila, na intersecting din. Okay? So, in line, So, ganun na sinasabi natin dito sa the rule of thirds. Okay? So, I hope na-clear na sa inyo yan. So, yan ang parang sinusundan pamantayan. So, sa aking, based on my own experience na sa pagdodrawing ng dati, may sinusundan din pamantayan yung parang ang dating, di ba, are-face. So, hindi ko lang nilagay dito. Basta mukha, figure na mukha. O, bilog. For example, yung bilog na ito, lalagyan mo ng cross. Para yung cross na yon, susundan mo yung line ng eyebrow at mata, no? Tsaka pati na rin yung ilong. Okay, so hindi lang natin nalagay dito. So parang ganun ang idea. So, guguhit ka ng bilog or oblong pala dahil oblong shape ang ating mukha, kalimitan. Then, sa oblong shape, lalagyan mo ng cross. At yung cross na yon, yung tawag dito, yung pahiga, yung pa-horizontal, dun mo ilalagay yung mata, tsaka kilay, ano? Whereas dun sa vertical, yung ilong, okay. So, ayun, mga ganon, di ba? Yung ating sinasabi. So, magkakonekta ko lang sa aking own experiences para mas maunawahan natin. Now, the major function of the rules of third is to serve as a guide for visual artists on the proper placement of their subject on the picture plane to achieve a more interesting composition. Placing the subject at the center does not provide enough interest for viewer to be able to appreciate the work. Okay? So, ayan, the rule of thirds. Now, dako na tayo dito sa panghuli. If I'm not mistaken, ito na yung panghuli, ha? Okay? The 7 Da Vincian Principle. Leonardo Da Vinci. Okay. Was more than an artist. Leonardo da Vinci was more than an artist. He was also an architect, scientist, inventor, anatomist, geologist, historian, and writer. Through the centuries, Da Vinci influenced various areas in many disciplines based on the research conducted by Michael G. Gleb, born on 1952, specifically in his book How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. So parang nadaanan ko itong How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, pero hindi ko pa siya mismo nabasa yung librong yan. Pero alam ko may libro talagang ganyan, ano? So, Da Vinci Genius was based on 7 principles which he called the 7 Da Vincian Principle. Tandaan nyo yan, ha? 7 Da Vincian Principle. So, ngayon, ito si Da Vinci, kilala naman natin ito, no? Nabuhay ito nung, di ko alam, ha? So, basta, 1452 baga? Something like that. Or, di ko alam kung nabuhay ba siya nung ganong exact year. Pero, something na natatandaan ko yung year na 1452. Okay, na-related kay Da Vinci. Basta 1400 yata ito nabuhay or what? Or 1300. Na later part ng 1300. Anyway, ito si Da Vinci, he was a polymath. So, actually, si Da Vinci, Leonardo Da Vinci, ito is sa hinangaan ko, personally, kasi polymath siya, hinangaan ko na polymath kasi marami siyang, kumbaga sa occupation. In a way na, pag kasi sinabi natin polymath, doon ko nga nakuha yung, kumbaga, inspiration ko, na word na polymath. Kaya, minsan, may mga nakalagay na username ako, nakalagay polymath. So, in a way na, yun nga, pagka sinabing polymath, maraming, kumbaga, different knowledge ang alam, So, hindi lang isa, dalawa, o tatlo, iba't iba. Katulad din sa Rizal, di ba? Inventor din siya, manunulat, tapos, ano pa nga yun? Ophthalmologist, surgeon, yung mga ganun, si Rizal. So, yun, pagka sinabing polymath, marami kang occupation na yun talaga interest mo, Iba't iba. So, nakabase rin yan, sa lawig ng kaalaman mo on certain things. Anyway, sige, dako na tayo kagad dito sa Da Vincian Principle na sinasabi. So, para tayo umunsad. So, sige, ito muna, una muna. Curiosity is approaching life with a heightened level of wonder and continuous search to know and learn more. Sige, ito yung basahan na lang natin. Huwag na natin masyadong bigyan ng paliwanag. So, ito lang ang curiosity comes from the word curiosity. So, under siya ng Da Vincian Principle in which, parang ang dating, mas magiging knowledgeable tayo kapag curious tayo. Pero minsan, ang curiosity daw ay nakakapatay. Katulad ng pusa. Yung pusa daw, di ba? Mga pusa, dahil sa sobrang curious about certain things, ay namatay. Okay, so, kumbaga kinonekta lang natin. Pero ang idea dito ha, yung curiosity, tayo bilang tao, siyempre, mas nagiging malawig ang ating kaalaman on different things, or certain things, kapag curious tayo. Okay, so yun ang sinasabi natin. Sige, next. Demonstrasyon. Hindi ko alam ang right pronunciation dito or demonstration. Basta, ganon. Is the commitment to test knowledge and to persist in this task, which include experiencing both success and failures and undertaking. Pinapakita dito yung demonstration, siyempre. Okay? So, parang ang idea, di ba, meron tayong kasabihin, action speaks louder than voice. Hindi lang basta concept, hindi lang basta words. Kapag hindi mo to tines, parang sa experiment, di ba, yung panghuli, experimentation, yung una, observation, hypothesis, okay, mga ganun, statement of the problem. Pero kapag walang demonstration, wala. Hindi talaga natin malalaman kung ano yung resulta. Yun ang sinasabi dito. Demonstration. Now, actually, itong mga term na ito, so ngayon ko lang nabasa rin, okay, at ngayon ko lang ipapaliwanag. So, on the spot talaga. So, next, we have sensation. Is expressing life through refinement of the senses. For example, the eye should do more than the see. It should be able to distinguish between the beauty of various colors, note, minute details, and savor the physicality of everything the world has to offer. Ito nga yung using the senses. Okay, so sige, connected to this, ito, parang idea, scientifically based lang kapag daw ang isang tao, for example, nawala ang kanyang isang senses, ang mangyayari, yung ibang senses niya, lalakas. Parang magiging, nagkakaroon ng heightened, senses. For example, sabihin na nating bulag ka. Pero may talent ka sa pagkanta. Mga ganun, di ba? Yung mga common. So, parang ganun. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, yung ibang mga bulag, yung iba lang or marami, ay magaling sa pag-awit. So, parang ganun lang So, yan, kinonekta lang natin. Anyway, so using senses yun. Esfumato. Ano to? Literally translate to going up in smoke. It is accepting life paradoxes and uncertainties. It is knowing and realizing that not everything is cause and effect, and that events happen that even logic cannot explain. Cannot ito Ito kasi nakalagay sa module, nakapil lang natin. Can explain. Dapat ito cannot explain. Okay? So anyway, ang sinasabi dito sa esfumato, parang ang idea, tawag dito, everything happens for a reason, di ba? Parang ganon, going up in smoke. Parang idea, di ba kapag sinabing smoke, trouble siya. Okay, parang ang idea rin, uncertainties. Hindi mo alam yung nasa loob. Okay? So, parang ganun ang esfumato. Yan. Now, next, we have arte or scientia, or art or science. Is finding a balance between art and science or logic and imagination. This relates to the concept of a whole brain thinking, not just left and right brain. Kasi nga, may sinabi tayong mga left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain. Kaya may nakalagay dito siguro na parenthesis na ganun, yung whole brain thinking na sinasabi. Okay, so, pero ang idea dito arts at saka science, ginagamitan natin. Okay, or logic and imagination. Okay, ang logic sa science yan, di ba? Ang imagination sa arts. So, kung i-connecta natin, di ba? Kaya nga sinasabi natin, with scientific base, kasi nga, base yan sa logic. Base yan sa observable facts. Okay? Whereas imagination, more on sa arts yan, di ba? Yan. Anyway, sige, huwag na natin masyadong palawanag. Next, we have corporalita. Ilan ba ito? Teka. 7 pala ito. Kala ko kasi madami. So, anyway, corporalita is taking care of one's body, ensuring that healthy habits are practiced and sustained. A sound mind is usually the product of a sound body and vice versa. So parang idea kapag ka nasa condition ka, physically, o di ba, kapag ka physically fit ka, more likely makakagalaw ka ng ayos, okay, makakapag-perform ka ng ayos, something like that, no? So kung magkakakonekta lang natin, so it is taking care of one's body, corporalita. Okay? So, ganun. Hindi ko alam kung nasabi ko na ito sa inyo. Sige, i-connecta ko lang ha. Parang idea, for example, nung dati nung board exam, ako personally, ready na ako. Kumbaga, sabihin na natin yung knowledge, ready na ako. Handang-handa na ako sumagot sa board exam na gusto ko maging top notcher, okay, mga ganon. Pero during that time na mismong examination, di ko alam. Bigla akong kinabahan kahit wala pa yung test paper sa akin. So, parang ganon. Wala talaga ako sa kondisyon nun during that time. Siguro dahil kulang sa tulog or what. Talagang mga ganon. Ang mga pagkakataon. So, kumbaga pinapakita natin doon, talagang nakaka-apekto kapag hindi ka mentally, physically, emotionally prepared. Kahit na sabihin na natin na knowledgeable ka, kahit na sabihin na natin, ano bang tawag doon? Academically prepared ka or something like that. Okay, mga ganon. Pero kapag wala ka sa kondisyon, wala. Okay? Wala ka sa kondisyon in terms na may sakit ka or something. Ayan, ang sinasabi natin. Okay na nagtako lang, bigla ko lang napaisip. Corporalita. Next, conscione. Conscione is realizing that all things are interconnected. Ito yung parang unang pumasok sa aking isipan nung nabasa ko yung espumato. Sabi ko, term pala ni Leonardo Da Vinci yung espumato na parang idea, accepting life, paradoxes, and uncertainties. Kasi hindi natin alam ang iba't ibang mga bagay. Parang ganon, So, parang medyo opposite siya dun sa connection or sa connection. Connessione. Okay, that realizing that all things are interconnected. Actually, isa sa nagustuhan ko dun sa concept ni Leonardo Da Vinci, yung quotes niya na all things are connected with each other. So, parang ganon ang idea, So, may kasabihan siya na parang ganon. Is realizing that all things are interconnected. It is discovering patterns in the way things work and how things and lives work out. Interconnected is seeing how events in the past led to present state of affairs. So parang ang idea, kung ikaw connecta natin sa kasabihan, ang hindi makabalik sa kinaroroonan, ang hindi, parang ang idea, pagka hindi ka daw bumalik sa iyong kinaroroonan nga, ay hindi makakapunta sa iyong, parang idea, kinakaharap sa ngayon. Parang ganun, di ba? Ay hindi makakapunta sa, parang ganun. So anyway, yun. I think nagets nyo na naman na kayo magsabihin, So, ganun. Kumbaga binabalikan yung nakaraan para sa hinaharap. Okay? So, a closer study of history would make one realize how events in the past explain the present. Yun nga sinasabi natin, So, ako personally, I always see connection in random things. Hindi ko alam, medyo may something weird, kumbaga, na gano'n ang aking pag-iisip. Doon sa mga iba pang mga tao na kilala ko, something like Bobby Fischer, something like that, At saka yung iba pang mga deep thinker, so parang gano'n din ang idea nila na parang, ewan ko, nakikita nila yung mga connection din, So, the same as me, So, ewan ko. So, personal lang yun, Medyo may pagka-personal. Yung parang idea, nakikita mo yung connection ng isang bagay dun sa isa, laging ganun. So, random things actually. So, mahirap siya i-explain in words. So, anyway, basta ganun, Connection So, connection. Alright? So, yan yung Da Vincian principle. 7 Da Vincian principle. So, ayan. Ano pa ba? Ayun pala, So, ito pala pinaka-summary. So, akala ko may kasunod pang iba pa, So, basahin lang natin, in summary. Ano nga yung ating una? Curiosity. Ito. Curiosita, ask the question. Ito, kung makikita natin na obserbahan na lang natin or tingnan na lang natin itong illustration. Observe, ask question, take notes, discover. Curiosita, eager to discover, will to constant learning. Ito naman, demonstration ito maganda ito, no? Magandang summary ito. Basahin na natin, ano? Know your filters. Mental model, learn from mistake, persistence, test knowledge to experience, willingness to learn from mistakes. So do not give up, be willing to learn, demonstratione. Next, we have see mistake, be open for feedback. So, yan, parang nakaka-relate ako dito, no? See mistake, be open for feedback. Kasi ako personally, lalo na kapag sisimula akong gagawin ng isang bagay, gusto ko talaga yung feedback mula doon sa aking viewer or sa aking audience. O the same as, yun nga, sa aking student, pero sa inyo, hindi ko na ito ginawa, no? Doon lang sa mga bagong student, okay, na ngayong semester, na parang dating, on the spot, ng pagkatapos ng first month, ay may pinost ako sa kanila na kailangan ko ng feedback mula sa kanila para malaman ko kung ano ba yung akin dapat i-improve, aking mistake, or kailangan nila na mapunan, para talagang solid yung way ng pagle-lecture, something like that. Now, huwag ko nang masyadong dinan pa. Next, we have sensione. Ano nakalagay dito? The art of observation. Practice the senses, play music. Ano to? Dare to draw pala ito, tapos cook, etc. Sharpen the senses, see as means to live the experience, So, yan, sensation, sensione. Sfumato. O parang, ewan ko, parang mga ngarati siya, nakalagay dito, self-veritainty. Okay, self-veritainty. Change, trust your intuition, be open for ambiguity, paradox, and uncertainty. Next, we have arte, scientia. Okay, we have studied the art of science, studied the science of art, binaligtad lang, map your mind, balance between science and art, logic and imagination, corporalita, desire for grace, craftsman, physical health and attitude, health coordination, embed healthy habits in your personal life. Connessione values the interdependence of things, system, thinking. The whole is more than the sum of its part. Yun na nga, holistic view. So, parang tinitingnan mo globally, Keen eye for context, see relation. So, ayan. So, actually, hanggang dyan ang ating lesson, ng yung elements and principle of arts. Okay? So, ayan, dyan pala nagtatapos ang ating lesson, Okay. So, yan, i-open ko muna ang aking camera. So, ayan, medyo madilim na. So, yan, dyan nagtatapos ang ating lesson sa, Anong lesson na ito? Lesson 6, if I'm not mistaken, So, yung continuation or last part ng ating elements and principle of arts. So, at least natapos natin yan ay para sa midterm. So, salamat sa inyong pakikinig, my dear students, particularly mga ECE student, mga electronics, electronic, ano nga pag sinabing ECE? Pati ako nakalimot na, Electronics and Communication, basta ganon. Okay, anyway, so, ayan, salamat sa inyong pakikinig, my dear student, particularly to my ECE student. So, I hope you learned something new from this lesson. Kahit sabihin na natin na, maraming mga simpleng words, pero aking talagang I try my best na ipaliwanag to na malinaw, simple. Okay, mga ganun, di ba? So, para mas maganda. So, ayun lang ang aking masasabi, So, medyo nag-a-adjust lang ako sa ngayon, So, di ko alam kung ano yung, ewan ko ba, kung may masasabi ko yung pagkakaiba sa aking lecture sa ngayon kumpara dun sa mga previous. Kasi nasa ibang place na ako, So, So, di ba kapag ka nasa ibang place, parang nag-iiba yung personality natin, di ba? So, parang ganun. So, ewan ko lang, ano. So, di pa ako masyadong aware, ano, sa akin sinasabi. Sa akin mga ganitong nagdaang lectures, kakatapos lang. So, at least, natapos na ang ating lesson sa Elements and Principle of Arts. So, hanggang dyan ang ating coverage ng midterm examination. So, once again, my dear student, thank you for listening for this particular lesson. I hope you learned something new from this. So, by the way, next week, wala muna tayong lesson at midterm examination nga eh. So, medyo para dun sa mga viewer kong iba pa, ay makikita nyo na wala muna akong upload next week. Okay? So, yun lang masasabi natin. So, salamat uli ha, mga student ko, particularly ECE students, sa inyong pakikinig. So, yun lang. Kung may feedback kayo, syempre naman huwag mahiya magtanong. Okay? Mag-comment lang sa ating Google Classroom. So, doon naman sa mga viewer ko na iba, di sa YouTube, mag-comment. Okay, so yun lang. So, salamat sa pakikinig. See you sa lesson na ito. Ibang lesson na. Next week na lang. See you next week. So, yun lang. God bless and have a nice day.